Next news. Breaking news from the White House.
Governor Tim Walz said we can't all be judged by our worst day about Vang. Stop right there. Walz tossed that line at a predator who sexually assaulted a girl starting at age 10, while Trump just smashed a DHS ice freeze and sent agents back to work. And you need to see just how ugly this gets. See, June brought the most aliens arrested in the history of the agency. That's what Tom Homan said. Let that sink in. ICE was hammering criminal aliens, then some bureaucrat inside DHS pushed a memo suspending all traffic stops, ERO traffic stops, until Trump just torched it. At the same time, Jim Banks and Eric Schmitt moved bills to shut down birthright citizenship for illegal aliens and tourists. You can see the split with your own eyes. Trump backs the agents, Dan Goldman babbles about abolishing ICE, and Tim Walz makes excuses for a child rapist. That machine pushes citizens and rewards invasions. Now, breaking, near record tungsten prices are sharpening pressure on Washington as the United States races to secure a critical mineral supply chain outside of China. Tungsten is now a tungsten national security priority used in fighter jets, tanks, missiles, drones, and ammunition, yet there has been no U.S. commercial tungsten mining since 2015. Project Vault, you've heard me talk about it, includes a $12 billion strategic stockpile alongside $30 billion for domestic production, while the Pentagon has directed millions toward restarting U.S. tungsten production. Vault Strategic Mining, trading as KNOX in Canada and KNXFF in the United States, it's right there on your screen, is targeting historic tungsten assets in mining-friendly U.S. jurisdictions, including Nevada's Great Basin, a historically productive tungsten region. The district carries a USGS estimate of roughly 168,000 tons of tungsten oxide and an estimated in-ground value of $30 to $50 billion. There's a Next News exclusive intelligence briefing linked below if you'd like to learn more. Mission Regional Medical Center. They ran Spanish billboards offering birth packages starting at $3,950. Birth packages in Texas. And then Jim Banks drops the Citizenship Act of 2026, and Schmitt files the America Citizenship Act. Good. Now let's walk through the receipts because every one of them burns the open border scam. One American News reporting Senator Jim Banks tweeting that Banks is pushing new legislation to restrict birthright citizenship. Let's take a look.
Indiana Senator Jim Banks is pushing new legislation to restrict birthright citizenship. Banks introducing the Citizenship Act on 2026 Monday, which would be declaring illegal immigration and birth tourism an ongoing invasion under federal law. The bill would also state that children born to parents who are in the country illegally would not automatically receive U.S. citizenship. The legislation would codify President Trump's Day 1 executive order of birthright citizenship, requiring that at least one parent be a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident for a child to receive citizenship at birth. The proposal does come as Trump is asking the Supreme Court to re-examine his case.
So Banks is moving to lock Trump's Day 1 order into federal law. Now Senator Eric Schmitt takes the next step, filing his own bill to restore what he says is the original meaning of the 14th Amendment. Senator Eric Schmitt posting that SCOTUS got birthright citizenship dangerously wrong. I'm filing the American Citizenship Act to start the process of restoring the 14th Amendment's original meaning. My bill restores the original understanding to prevent birthright citizenship for illegal aliens and tourists. And here he posts the first page of the bill that he's introduced. So this isn't just one senator making noise. Schmitt has it on paper. Next, Eric Darty shows why the push is heating up with a new spotlight on birth tourism in Texas. So Schmitt officially filing new legislation.
the hospital for answers. Well, it has also caught the attention of President Trump. Take a look at these billboards here, entirely in Spanish, advertising birth packages in South Texas, deliveries starting at $3,950 for natural birth and $5,525 for a C-section. It also directed expectant mothers to the website HaveMyBabyInTexas.com. That has since been removed. Now, a spokesperson for Mission Regional Medical Center told me this campaign, it started in 2021, but they pulled down those billboards and the whole campaign this week because of, quote, the potential of unintended misunderstanding. Adding, quote, like hospitals across the country and throughout the region, we share information about the healthcare services we provide. We do not.
Yeah. Just a misunderstanding. You guys aren't really interpreting it correctly. But that's the real-world abuse that Schmitt's bill is targeting. Meanwhile, Democrats are still flailing on enforcement, and Dan Goldman gets pressed on CNN after talking about abolishing ICE.
If ICE were to be abolished, what would be the appropriate mechanism to have effective border control or removal of people who are not authorized to be in the United States?
Well, that's something that we are having regular discussions about in the Homeland Security Committee, because I think the Department of Homeland Security needs to be revamped broadly after 25 years. And now that ICE is effectively the fifth largest military in the country, in the world, rather, that was never its intention.
Okay, Goldman. Can't even explain what replaces ICE. If the left tears it down, then Trump steps in and blows up the ICE traffic stop freeze, putting agents back in the fight. It is official. Trump sent out to ICE for agents to cease. Nearly all illegal alien vehicle stops has been deemed null and void by President Trump.
Today, President Trump overturning a brief suspension of ICE traffic stops, calling it an effective crime-fighting tool for immigration agents. Correspondent Alexis McAdams with the latest from New York City. Hey, Alexis.
Hey, John. Well, President Trump says ICE traffic stops are back on. As border czar Tom Homan tells Fox, agents have a lot of tactics they can use to make arrests.
You can certainly arrest the alien before he gets in the car, when he leaves home. You can certainly arrest the alien when he parks the car, but gets to where he's going. But there's going to be situations where they need to do a vehicle stop, especially if it's a criminal alien.
So this morning, President Trump overturned that pause, calling the traffic stops one of the agency's most effective crime-fighting tools, saying without them, ICE would just play right into the criminals' hands. That's because DHS says, John, agents use these traffic stops because you don't need a judicial warrant. It's different than going in someone's house. The debate follows two fatal ICE-involved shootings in less than a week, including one in Biddeford, Maine, on Monday. You can see the vigil there. Federal officials have identified the man killed as 25-year-old Colombian national, and the Attorney General's office just identified him as Johan Sebastian Duran Guerrero. Immigration advocates say he was legally authorized to work in the United States. DHS also tells Fox he was not the target of the operation, explaining he was leaving the target's home but tried to flee before an agent opened fire. They called it a threat to public safety. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are calling for a full investigation. That includes Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins and Democrat Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
Republicans had agreed to our proposal for body cameras, use of force training, warrant requirements, other basic reforms. The victims killed in Texas and Maine so tragically might be alive today.
So we asked DHS about those body cameras, John. When are they coming? They told us that more than half of its field offices have the body cams. The rest of the teams will receive them within the next 60 days.
All right, we'll see what everybody has to say.
So after the brief pause, Trump made clear ICE isn't backing off. Next, you'll see the memo that started the mess and the White House move to shut it down fast. Alexis McAdams. The White House tells me Trump overturned the suspension of ICE traffic stops this morning. This after a DHS memo was sent to field officers yesterday saying all vehicle stops were suspended. White House says there was no policy change, just an internal DHS memo that was quickly overturned. So this is the actual memo. This has since been overturned by President Trump, and the document shows the freeze was real, no matter how they try to spin it now. Up next, Tom Homan answers the weak-kneed critics and lays out just how aggressive ICE has been under President Trump. We saw Homan in that Fox clip, but here is a extended cut of his full remarks at the sticks at the White House.
Will this change on vehicle stops lower the rate of deportation during the pause?
No. And, you know what? Let me address that for a minute. I'm sick and tired of reading about how the administration's lost their guts with, mass deportations. And do you know June, last month, ICE arrested more aliens than any month in the history of the agency. So, people say ICE is not serious about their job. Last month, the most aliens arrested in the history of the agency, more than last year. More than when you had the FBI, ATF, DEA, Border Patrol, ICE all out there. ICE by themselves, with their 287G partners, had the most arrests in the history of the agency. Now, were numbers down for a few months? Yeah. Why? Because the department was shut down, right? Agents weren't getting overtime paid. They weren't getting travel. I mean, the travel cards were maxed out, so they couldn't travel to operations. The targeting wasn't being funded like it should have been. So the department was shut down, so of course the numbers are shut down. And why did them shut down the government? I'll tell you why, because I was in negotiation because of Minneapolis. They had concerns about things in Minneapolis. I'm not going to make a judgment call on everything happened in Minneapolis, but that's why they shut it down. Every question, everything they wanted ICE to change and Border Patrol to change, come back to operations in Minneapolis. So, bottom line is, once we got the funding, numbers are going through the ceiling, like President Trump promised Americans.
So Homan says the numbers are smashing records and Trump's not letting bureaucrat agents tying their hands. Shifting gears, DHS now puts Tim Walz on the spot for defending the deportation of a pardoned child predator. Homeland Security still driving this point home today, tagging Governor Walz in the post. Governor Tim Walz on why ICE shouldn't have deported a child rapist. We can't all be judged by our worst day.
Speaking to the news media today, the governor was asked about the 42-year-old father's recent deportation.
Did that make us any safer? Did that make the children that are left behind any more stable? Did it improve?
I think it's interesting to note how that reporter set up this clip. The 42-year-old father's deportation. I believe he was a child rapist. I think it would be a more accurate term. So let's watch that again with that in mind.
Well, speaking to the news media today, the governor was asked about the 42-year-old father's recent deportation.
Did that make us any safer? Did that make the children that are left behind any more stable? Did it improve
yes.
the idea that we can't all be judged by our worst day?
Tim Walz. He tries to brush off a sick case. We'll talk about your worst day. Even after years. Oh, what happened here? After years of abuse, next Trump delivers the blunt order himself, backing ICE and telling agents to get back to work. President Trump posted in Truth Social, the men and women of ICE are doing a great job. One that has to be done. Crime is way down in many cases with numbers that haven't been seen in decades. The open border policy of sleepy Joe Biden allowed 25 million people to pour into our country unchecked and unvetted. Many were criminals. We have to get them out. In order to do this, we must be strong, tough, and smart, and we cannot give up one of ICE's most important and effective crime-fighting tools, the traffic stop. Once we do, we are playing right into the criminals' hands. The radical left Democrats would like to see this done, but it won't happen on my watch. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We all can't be judged by our worst day. Tim Walz used that line, and he used it about Tulu Vang, a 42-year-old who repeatedly sexually assaulted a girl for years, starting when she was 10 years old. I want you to sit with the depravity of that sentence for just 1 second. Tim Walz didn't slip. Tim Walz exposed himself. And that's the left's moral code in plain English. Endless mercy for predators, endless excuses for illegal aliens, and contempt for the Americans forced to live with the damage. Now put that next to Trump overruling the ICE traffic stop freeze and saying ICE cannot give up one of its most effective tools because then we're playing right into the criminals' hands. Exactly. Trump saw sabotage and crushed it. Walz saw a monster and softened him. That's the whole fight right there in 2 sentences. So Jim Banks, Eric Schmitt, and President Trump, they need backup from every American citizen right now. Pick up the phone, flood the offices, push the Citizenship Act of 2026 and the American Citizenship Act until Congress locks this in and no rogue memo writer inside DHS can hijack enforcement again. Because look at what we just watched together. Trump overturned the freeze, backed ICE, and kept the deportation push moving. Homan brought the receipt. June hit the highest arrest total in the agency's history. And that's what happens when leadership stops apologizing and starts protecting the country. And on the other side, Dan Goldman couldn't explain how border control works without ICE, and Tim Walz, they tried to humanize Tulu Vang with that sick worst day line. No, we don't reward birth tourism. We don't gut ICE. We don't let Democrat politicians wrap predators in therapy language while American families pay the bill. We press the advantage. We codify the win, and we make every saboteur wear the defeat. And we're not going to be defeated here either. No, we're not. We're not going to let YouTube dictate who gets to see our news. We're going to let you make that choice. And thousands of patriots already have. What have they done? They've texted the words raw feed to that secret number on your screen right now. Look at that number, 844-840-4963. Text that word raw feed to that number and defeat the blackout of the Next News Network from the algorithm that's trying to control everything you see. We're bypassing them, going straight to you, right to your phone with one text message a night. Get the news you depend on and join the thousands of patriots who already are.
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.